Welcome back to another episode of the I AFYL Podcast. Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. And today on the podcast, here's what we're uncovering. We're uncovering faith that moves mountains. And a couple of weeks ago, I shared that I would be studying Denzel Washington in some of his movies that he's created. He's acted in a lot of movies. I settled in on one particular movie that has really helped me to really see faith in a new light, and also given some principles that I believe that we can use as we are uncovering faith that moves mountains. So look, if that's something that you'd like to do, then I welcome you to continue listening or watching wherever you are on this podcast. So look, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching, and let's get started. So back in 2020, God gifted me an opportunity to write a book. That book is titled Next Level Faith, Moving Mountains in Uncertain Times. Now, this particular book, when God shared it with me and said, hey, I want you to write it, I felt like there's no way you're asking me to write a book on faith, let alone, at the time I was running the ministry at my church. I had just so happened to renamed it Next Level Faith. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing, nor that I understand really what I'd gotten myself into, except I had been given an opportunity. I had been given a way to take something that God wanted to get done into the world, into the marketplace, if you will. And so I was, living life, doing the thing. And, when he says, come write this book, I was like, oh, I'm the writer. That's the first thing I said. And he was like, well, you already got it. And so God took me on a journey of getting this book written, and the book is written. Now, we're not actually here to talk about that particular book. It's just that as I was studying Washington, his name is Eli in the movie. As I'm studying him in this movie, The Book of Eli, it blew me away. I've watched this movie, I think 4 times. I think I've watched it 4 times in the past couple of weeks. Whole movie. It blew me away at the amount of time that he was willing to go the distance. We're talking about moving mountains here. We're talking about going on a mission for God. Now, here's what Eli says in the movie. He says that he was, he's just going about his thing, the world had basically collapsed, and, there's nothing happening. And he said he heard a voice audibly, as if it was literally right in front of him. But he said he heard it from the inside. So when we're talking about moving mountains, when I'm talking about moving a mountain, I've got to hear a voice. And I remember I heard a voice. God said, write the book. So Washington, he's explaining to his co-star, what was her name? Solara. He's explaining to her, he says, look, I heard a voice, and this voice said, hey, go. And the voice led him to the book. Now, it's funny because they call it the Book of Eli. So if you were, the first time I probably watched it, I didn't know what this book was. What is the Book of Eli? And then you find out it's the Bible, right? But the only one left on the planet, God leads him to it. Now, here's the wild part about that. The book is written in Braille. Come on. Now, but here's the thing. Whenever God takes us on a faith walk where we're going to move mountains, here's the thing. He's got to teach us. You want to write this down. He's going to teach us something we didn't know. He's going to show us something we've never seen. He's going to give us something we've never had before. He gives Washington this book, and the book was literally was buried. Washington. Now, they didn't get to that part, but he's explaining this if you didn't watch the movie. He uncovers the book, and the book is in Braille. Now, here's the thing. In the movie, he never talked about the book being in Braille, except that he read it every single day. And here's what was so interesting about this journey of faith that he's on in this movie. It was 30 years and he had not reached where he was going. 30 years. 30 years. And he never said, he never really went into 30. He said, you know what? It's been 30 winters, is how he explained. It's been 30 winters since the collapse happened. So 30 years, this man was on a mission. Now, so we're talking about moving mountains. So what mountain did Eli have to move? What mountain do you have to move? We all have to move a mountain. There's a mountain in life. I had to move the mountain. That am I the one to go on to, to be a faith, the man of faith, or am I the one to, to write books on faith? Am I the one to teach people about faith? Am I that guy? See, God has to take us far. He's got to take us so far that we then actually, because from the beginning, no, you're not going to necessarily, I may not have like the oomph or the knowingness that I really can do it. So in the movie, what does Washington have to do? God tells him, go west. He says, well, now here's the thing. He's got no compass. He's got no map. The world, everything is blown but he's been told to go west. And he says he felt that he was being led and that everything would be taken care of, which leads me to my first scripture, one that he quoted in the movie, Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I love I love being able to translate that. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not lack for anything. So when we're talking about moving mountains with our faith, with my faith, God is my leader. Everything I need, he's already provided. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Think about the path. Like he was on a path. Washington is on a path in this movie to go west. And his job was to get to where he was going. He needed to take this book. Wait a second, but there was no explanation as to how he learned how to read Braille. He wasn't deaf. So how did he learn how to read Braille? So it's assumed that God literally taught him how to read Braille. And so he literally read Braille. And because he read Braille, he learned every word in the book. Now, that wasn't demonstrated until the very end of the movie. I hope you saw the movie because I could be messing it up for you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. He had to go through so many valleys and so many things that could cost his life. And literally, that's what it was. Because he was on a faith walk, and his arch nemesis was also on a faith walk. Carnegie, who's in the movie. Carnegie is this guy who quoted something in the movie that I loved. I think he said something. It takes faith to build a town. It takes faith to build up new towns. And Carnegie was all about getting the book. He was sending people out there to find this book. He wanted the Bible. He knew that he could use it to control. So you had one man that wanted to use the book so that the book can be preserved and help humanity, Washington. And you had Carnegie who wanted to use the book to control. Now, I love this part of it because it's said in the movie that the one who has this book can control people in their minds. Yo, that blew me away because right in the movie, they're telling you that this book can control people in their mind. They can be told what to do with this book. This is how Carnegie wants to use the book. I forgot the actor's name. But you have two people in a faith walk. Carnegie knew he was going to get the book. Washington knew he was going to get out west. And so here it is. They're fighting. It's a fight against time. Washington fight against time. And they had to meet at some point. So here's the mountain that Washington came up against. Eli came up against. He came up against his arch nemesis, just like you're going to come up against an arch nemesis. Something, someone that doesn't want you to get to where it is that you want to go. You want to go west. Washington wants to go. He wanted to go west. Carter's like, no. You're going to give me that book. You're going to give me that book, or you're going to die. So there's a force that would like you, that wants you to be dead. They want to take you out. But is your faith strong enough to move the mountain out of the way? In 2020, when God gifted me this book, let me just grab it. When God gifted me this book, Next Level Faith, Moving Mountains in Uncertain Times, and I worked with my brother, a friend of mine, his name's Aaron Smith. Aaron, was one of our contributors in the book, and in his contribution, he gave us the phases of Next Level Faith, where Next Level Faith does not come without obedience. That was the first phase of Next Level Faith. He talked about his journey. He talked about what God did in his life that drew his obedience. Next Level Faith does not come without sacrifice. Washington, in the movie, he had to sacrifice his life for the sake of the mission. So whatever mission God has you on, look, I'm gonna tell you this has been brewing in me, because I'm asking God, like, it's not about the money. Like, it's not about the money. It's about the mission. Like, show me the mission. Like, seriously, I know I got a mission. Like I know I'm on mission here, but the things that will take you off mission is the mountain. The mountain that comes. And it says, yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. See, when we see the mountain, that's when we get scared. Man, uncovering faith that moves mountains. You know that you may face imminent death. Washington knew that it would take his life to get across the world, the country, in order to get to where God was sending him. Next Level Faith. Comes with suffering. In the movie, right when, I don't know, it's one of these things where you think, it's like that twist where you think he's going to, be okay. And, when an old famous quote was said, and Carnegie says to Eli, God is good. And Eli says, all the time. And then Carney says, but not today. And he shoots Eli. They didn't show exactly where he shot him, but it looks like he shot him more kind of like on the side, like not directly in his stomach, but on the side. And you can see in Eli's face that he couldn't believe it. He said, it looked like, wait a second, I'm supposed to get this book out west. I know that it's time for me to go. Like, but how am I going to get there now? So he shoots him. Now, and what was interesting is he didn't want to kill him, but he wanted to show that, well, look, he's human, and whatever he was doing ain't going to happen. See, in the movie, that's where the plot had a twist. Huge twist. See, and Washington didn't realize that he could have been gave up the book, because he was the book. He could have given up the book. So he wound up having suffering. Next Level Faith does not come without suffering. He had to suffer his way to finish the race. Lastly, next level faith, faith that moves mountains, comes with absolute trust. The trust that you know that the mission that God has sent you on is a mission that is righteous, a mission that, yeah, I'm going to go through the valley of the shadow of death, but it says, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. See, I remember when Eli quoted this during the scripture, and so Laura, who he quoted to, she didn't understand what he was talking about. And she says, why did you write that? He said, yeah. He says, yeah, I wrote it. And he says, he says, this been here long before us. See, the things that we quote, the verses that we read, we can no longer just read those verses. We got to take these verses and we got to say, well, is there a way to use this to move the mountain in my life? A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to God and I was asking God, have you ever asked God for something big? Have you ever asked God for something that you may feel like it's selfish? Have you ever asked God to do something for you that ultimately would help a lot of people? See, I've been asking God, like, God, I know you've marked me for this thing. I know you've given me this task. I know you gave me this mission. There's a mountain in front of me. There's a mountain in front of me. And then God led me to the book of Eli. He led me there. See, and it's interesting because the whole book, the whole movie is built on faith. And I have more to share. Like, this is just one excerpt or one understanding from this movie. I have more. I wrote a number of things down that I want to share about this in the coming days. But he leads me to this movie that I'd seen before. And he showed me in this movie that everybody's life is just like this. He says, your life is going west. Go west. Here's what I'd like for you to do. And when God gives you something, he didn't give it to anybody else. He didn't give the thing to anybody else. Somebody else may have something similar, but he did not give the same thing to anyone else. And so if I take any specific thing out of this book, it's like, well, God chose you for that mountain. God chose you to see how the mountain looked. God chose you to recalibrate your mind and say, that's not even a mountain. That's just somewhere where I'm walking to. So you guys, if we're going to uncover faith that moves mountains, we got to rename the mountain. We no longer can call it a mountain. Here's what I mean. When you think of a mountain, you think of something that maybe you can't do. You think of something that maybe is hard, or you think of something that would be bigger than you. We got to look at the mountain the way that David saw the Goliath. See, even the word Goliath, big, huge. David saw that being as a being that would fall to the ground with his rock. See, when we understand that concept of what David saw, he did not see something bigger than him. David saw something that was smaller than his creator. And he knew that his mission in life was to work with the creator in such a way that the creator does what he's going to do. So David realized as a kid, he says, oh, God gave me a rock, and this particular rock I know is going to take down this particular thing because that thing is not bigger than my creator. See, when we put ourselves at the bottom of the mountain, we make the mountain more than us. When we make the mountain more than us, then we now are thinking we're too small, we can't do it, and now the mountain won't move because we're not strong enough. However, when we remove ourselves from the bottom of the mountain, and now we say, well, this mountain is way smaller than the creator, way smaller than, my leader. That mountain is nothing. And I can walk all over that mountain because I know who I'm with. So let's remember, if we're going to uncover faith that moves mountains, let's remember this. The Lord is my shepherd. I should not lack for anything. And lastly, that goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And also, let's remember, this type of faith does not come without obedience, sacrifice, suffering, or trust. Let us uncover the type of faith that walks all over mountains so that we can live the life that God has called us to in the mission that God has sent us on. Guys, I hope you got value from today's podcast. Do you know that it's about 76 days left in 2024? Can you believe it? But be sure, look, if there's something huge that you'd like to do, I believe that God is there's a message that's being sent right now through this place, through this podcast, where if you have something huge that God is asking you to do, if there's something big that that God has missioned you to go and accomplish, then be sure to catch this podcast every day. We've taken time off the past week or two, but we're going to be streaming this every day for the rest of this year. We're not going to miss any days. So be sure to come back tomorrow. We're going to break down some more of this movie, some of the truths, some of the things that I uncovered inside of this movie to build your faith to a level that is totally unbreakable and that you will walk all over mountains. Share this podcast with someone else. Let them know that, look, if there's something that they would like to accomplish, this is the premier place to build your faith. Guys, appreciate you, love you, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.